Call the Monday night, February 12th, 2024, Jersey Shore Area School District Board of School Directors meeting to order. Can I have a roll call, please, Mr. Enders?
Mr. Allen.
Present.
Mr. Gringard.
Here.
Ms. Calhoun.
Here.
Ms. Edwards.
Here.
Mr. McDonald.
Here.
Mrs. Peters.
Here.
Mr. Sherman.
Here.
Mrs. Thomas.
Here.
Mrs. Stemler.
Here.
All 9 members present.
We will now have the Pledge of Allegiance. Dr. Wilmer?
I'm going to recognize Mr. G.
Good evening, Board. It's a great pleasure to introduce, I think Jack German is not here, however, Kendall Hughes is. He's a 5th grade student at Davis. So, Kendall, if you can come up and lead us in the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Don't leave until your mom gets her picture.
Thank you.
Next, we'll have presentations. Under presentations, communications. Dr. Ulmer.
I have nothing under communications.
Moving on to the President's report, we had an executive session prior to this meeting for legal and personnel. The intermediate unit report, Jesse.
Sorry. We haven't had our monthly meeting as of yet, so at this time I yield.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Our student representative, I think, is missing.
She's unable to attend.
Okay, and we will move on to the superintendent's report.
I'm going to start by introducing Mrs. Stephanie Mockmer, and she's also joined tonight by Mrs. Patty Hess and Mrs. Jody Wolsleigel and Kempton. And while she's coming up and to talk about what Kempton has done, don't forget that Mrs. Mockmer was also our representative as a finalist for Teacher of the Year.
So this is Kempton. He will be 2 years old in May, but we wanted to bring him to introduce him to you. He's now up to 5 days a week at the high school. He spends his time between my room with Mrs. Hess and also Mrs. Walker in the guidance office. And then he gets out into the classrooms. He's been in the hallways. He visits with lots of different people during the day. He's been to a basketball game. He's been to a bocce match. He's getting around more and more. So I asked one of my students today, I told them that I was bringing him tonight, and I asked them what they wanted the board to know about Kempton. And one student looked at me, and he's a student who really struggles, and he said to me, why do you need to tell them anything? When they meet him, they'll love him as much as we do. You want to talk about it? I mean,
do you guys have any questions?
Yeah, do you have questions for us?
I have one. He doesn't roam the halls. He has a handler all the time with him.
He has a handler all the time.
I'm just curious. That means somebody has to take care of him, right?
Yeah.
All right.
We've had teachers request him to come to their rooms. Patty took him and answered questions for students who had questions about animals and service. I've taken him to different classes before tests, so he just can wander around and see students. We've both noticed that he tends to gravitate towards students who really need him without us directing him to go anywhere. He just really seems to have a intuitive,
that we don't
necessarily.
there's a lot of joy that comes with him. So we hear things like, this is the best part of my day, or I feel so much better now that I've had a little bit of time with Kempton. So,
I've
just
heard
something
you're,
about a dog.
yeah, I've heard you're the reason I come to school. I've heard this is the best part of my day, or I'm really glad my homeroom's in your hallway, because I take him out in the hallway in the morning. So,
Any questions for us?
Thank you for bringing them.
you're welcome.
Yes, thank you.
Good night, Captain.
He's got to go to school tomorrow.
School tomorrow.
And I'm going to recognize Dr. Luann Gasparin to give the board an update on the Education Foundation.
Good evening. Let's see if I can manipulate this. Aha, there we go. Just a couple quick things, especially for the new board members and anybody in the audience who is not familiar with the foundation. We do have a mission statement, and we operate as a 501c3, which is a nonprofit organization. We like to engage in the students, and we need to look for people and organizations to extend and enrich the learning opportunity in Jersey Shore's classrooms, basically. We ask for teacher input. We ask for administrative input and things like that. If you have any questions concerning the foundation, please send me an email. Michelle Stemler is on our board, and so Mary Thomas is an ex officio of our board. Dr. Almer comes to our board meetings also. So some of the projects we've funded this year are field trips for our different student classes. We have author visits coming. We have one this year coming from Judy. Her name is Judy Nordstrom. She's from Williamsport. Katie Wirt, who is our elementary librarian, generally schedules them, and the author visits all the elementary schools and talks with the students, shows them sometimes how they write their book, how they come up with their ideas, how to illustrate and all that, and they take it back to their classroom. I just spent 2 weeks in the Ag Band at Jersey Shore Elementary. This is funded by the Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture, and they have a foundation also. We have 7 of these vans that go statewide. We pay for them to come as through the foundation. The foundation is, well, we pay about $13,000 a year for the 4 weeks that they come to our different schools. The kids all do hands-on science, and they love it. If you ever need, we have yet to go to Saladysburg, and that I believe is in the beginning of April. So if anybody wants to see what that's all about, please feel free to stop. We also sponsor the community garden at the elementary school. Last year, that's a picture of it from last year. It is very prolific. People stop, pick up, they need a tomato for their salad for dinner. There it is. So they stop and get it. We have, in fact, it's in Steph's class, a water wall and hydroponics. This was a program sponsored by High Steel Company. They donated $7,000 for these things, and what they do is they look at the trout in the classroom project that they have. They need to filter the water. The trout are very sensitive critters, and what this does is it takes the water from the trout tank and filters it through the water plants in there, and then they return it back to the trout tank. Benefits the trout, benefits the plants, and it's very calming. We also purchased Sim Junior this past year. It's an interactive pediatric simulator for Mrs. Hess's medical technologies classes. This is creepy. It's the only way I can say it. It comes with its own box of body parts. No lie. Including eyeballs that you can put in to demonstrate dilated and pinpoint pupils. So, and Patty can talk through the simulator to the students. So if the student is assessing the Sim Junior, and let's just say he has broken bone in his leg. As the student goes down and assesses it, Patty can turn around and say, "Oh, it hurts, it hurts," you know. And the first mistake when you see that is that the kids go, you know, and you don't want them doing that on a real person. So we also purchased a set of family mannequins for their CPR. All students have to have CPR in the high school before graduation. It is for the kids. And I've heard a number of students who've already worked on it say it's really, they love it. They love it. Skills Quest is a program that Heath Rager uses in his classes. He has an Oculus that goes with it, and these are all different programs that they can use to not only teach but assess various subjects such as plumbing, HVAC, going into places that are confined spaces and the safety involved with that. I find it to be very, very good. It also is subject to Department of Labor and Industry certifications that they can get through that. Upbeat Outreach, this is a program where a gentleman comes in and works with the students in Mrs. Mockler's class, and they play drums and they beat on the floor or sometimes on actual drums, but the kids get a lot of not only enjoyment, but a lot of stimulation from that. And he's exceptionally good in trying to encourage perseverance and things like that. Oh, these are new, the microbots in the elementary classroom. Denise Rout has it. She just sent me a video that they made when the kids use these things. They're tiny computers and they can program them so that you can play their own games and things like that. But it teaches the kids pretty much how these microbots actually work. And this is in the elementary school. So kind of interesting, I thought. Where am I on here? I don't even know. STEM. We have a lot of STEM materials in the middle school, middle school STEM lab of Heather Reeder. She just sent me a couple pictures of Kiva planks and other responsible pictures that they have to come up with ideas to build with that. That was a PPNL grant that we received for her. We also distributed $15,000 in scholarships last year to Jersey Shore High School students. And they come from the American Legion, from the Ladies Auxiliary, from the foundation itself, and any other contributions that anyone else would like to have. We also help to pay for AP exams. We ask that the kids who take AP classes contribute $15 for their initial registration, and anything after that we pick up. And if anybody knows how much they cost, I believe they're $85 a piece this year. And we have some kids taking upwards of 3 or 4 tests. It can be expensive. My main project here tonight is that I have been approached by a couple of individuals, one in particular, and about a recording studio at the high school. And I've been approached about this before in years gone past and never really acted upon it. This year I kind of gave it another second thought, and I'm going to ask permission from the board to explore the possibilities of installing one of these with the costs absorbed by the foundation. I'm not asking the district to put up any money for it. But the more we talked about it at our last board meeting, it mushroomed into not only a recording studio, but an audio-video recording studio. And we realized it probably is going to be expensive, so the first thing we need to do is to kind of narrow down what it is exactly what we want in it and where we can put it and things like that. I know I have one grant that I can write for it, and I think I would be able to actually obtain that grant, plus what we can provide. But talking about it and thinking about it, I contacted Matt Hensler, who teaches our technology classes, in response to what kind of software would I need for the audio, you know? And he was all excited about it. He said, I've been wanting to get one of those put in for years. Okay, And then we also talked to the English department one day at lunch. We were just chit-chatting, and they are considering adding a broadcast journalism class, which would be used by this particular studio also. So I see where it can have a lot of uses in many different academic areas and not just the music department. And with that in mind, then I can also write a proposal for EITC funding so that we can use, and actually we get, the foundation receives approximately $60,000 a year in EITC funding. With that being said, we have 2 years to spend it. So should we have decided, to go this route, we do have some funding that we have available to put something like that in. So I would like for you, please, to explore the options. And we just ask that you give us permission to explore those options. I'm not going to spend hours writing a grant and then turn around and come here and say, yes, we have the money, we'd like to put it in, and you would say, no, that ain't happening. So I would like to avoid that at all possible. And the other proposed project we have, which is EITC funded, is an outdoor classroom. We had a teacher a number of years ago who purchased, through the grant, 4 picnic tables because she wanted to take her kids outside of Saladaysburg, which we purchased. And they're scattered, if I'm not mistaken. I think they're out front the last time I was there. I think, and I have taught in an outdoor classroom, and they're very good. It's easy to take kids outside and talk about what clouds are in the sky when you can go out there and look at them instead of looking out the window. It's also easier to go outside and collect snowflakes, and let's look at the geometry of the snowflakes. Let's look at the composition of the snowflakes. Yeah, they're frozen water, but did you ever look at them and look at the different shapes they have? There's multiple ways that you can use an outdoor classroom. Saladaysburg has a perfect place for it. If you're looking at the school, on the left-hand side, right out the side door, there's a flattened area where a volleyball net used to be. So it's already there with a little bit of excavation. You can put in a nice pad, cement pad, that would fit 6 to 8 picnic tables. It's near the school. We could put in, we would like to have electricity available. Doesn't have to be there. You can run it from the inside of the building out. And we would have to apply for permits and things like that. And the structure would be an open air covered patio, basically, is what it's going to look like. This is also an EITC project. So we'd like to have permission to explore that a little bit more, talk to Mark Wall, see if we can get something moving on that. If not this year, over the summer or whatever. So those are the 2 main projects I would like to introduce you to. And I'm hoping that you would see the benefits in those. And again, these would be EITC projects. If you're not familiar with EITC, it stands for Educational Improvement Tax Credit. What it is for, it's a program through DCED, Department of Community Development, I think it is. Anyway, what happens is businesses apply to be a part of this program. Nonprofits apply to be part of this program. And in essence, the funds come from businesses who owe taxes to the state. And the state says, well, instead of paying me, why don't you give it to a nonprofit? And here's a list of nonprofits that you can donate it to. So, free money. But the catch is we only have certain projects we can use it on, and it has to be spent within 2 years. That's the catch. So we're always looking for something that we can use those particular funds on. If you don't already have it, some of you might, but I do have a list of approved EITC programs that we have within the district right now. And last time I talked to them down in Harrisburg, he says, we really would like to have you get rid of some of them because we have quite a few. But I was pretty aggressive in getting out there because, hey, if we get the money, why not? You know? everything from the author visits, field trips, projects like this that we can use it for. Okay? Any questions up to this point?
On these EITC programs, Mrs.
Yeah.
Gasparini, once you have them approved, do you have to re-have them approved?
Nope.
Is there, okay,
I do not have to have them reapproved, but every year we have to renew.
okay.
And when we renew the application, Ben and I sit down because we have to account for everything we spent on the projects. We have to list them, and on top of that, we have to have a narrative on what the project was, did we meet our goals, where it was, what county it was in, and all that kind of stuff. I'll be happy to send you my renewal narrative if you would like. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
The EITC one for the, what do you call it, the proposed project, the outdoor classroom?
Yeah.
Okay. Is Saldursburg the best location, or?
Right now, Saladaysburg was the only school. Holly Dittmer was the one that applied for the grant for the picnic tables. And they are the only ones at this point
Okay.
that has. In my personal opinion, I'd like to see one at all the elementary schools.
I agree. I
know?
love the fresh air aspect, and it doesn't have to be just science. I imagine it could be.
My goodness, you can take the kids out there where they can hopefully get accustomed to writing,
Mr. Amy and Mr. Atelsky took us out all the time.
art,
Yep.
reading. I mean, it's unlimited what you can do.
The
in one of
mental
those
health
things.
aspect is
Absolutely.
probably my selling point.
Well, the other half of that coin is Saladaysburg doesn't have air. And when it gets hot, you want to be outside and get covered. And I think, and it's usable year round. It's
Yeah.
not just something that you can use in the summer or the spring or the fall. I mean, if it's covered, you can go out there when it's raining and it wouldn't matter,
Correct.
you know?
Correct. Okay. Thank you.
And the money is there. I would really like to pursue that and see how it goes. And from there, maybe next year do JSE or Avis. Like I said, I would personally, I would like to see it. I've taught in them. I love it. I wouldn't ever not promote one of those.
Agreed.
Okay? Any other questions?
Does anybody have any hesitation at this point or questions about the foundation moving forward with these projects?
I was gonna say, do these need to be an agenda item?
That was gonna be my next question. Would you like me to put them on an agenda? And we could put them on an agenda as a donation with like a donation form, and you could act on them. Is that what the board would like to see?
So we're talking about our two main projects, is that
Yeah.
what we're, okay.
Yeah. What she's proposing, the recording studio, the outdoor classroom, would the board like to see them put on as a donation to take action on?
I would.
You talking about tonight or the next meeting?
No.
It would be a
Tonight.
future meeting. Or, I mean. What am I, 26?
You're gonna add them, don't add them.
No, we're not
that's
adding them tonight.
No, I'm saying put them on the next meeting, the
Right,
26th.
Any other questions?
The outdoor, not the outdoor, the recording studio.
Yeah.
Along with that, I know you gave us verbally, can you give us a little written synopsis of what it is what it is that you're planning?
We're really not sure. That's why it all started with a recording studio in Chris Lahr's band room. He has the one far room, practice room. And with the Les Paul grant, they basically just come in and they do the whole thing for $28,000. They will soundproof it and give you a little bit of the equipment and, say, good luck, here you go. Dr. Almer did contact the people who sponsor that, and it would have not required any additional electrical work or anything like that. It would be totally self-contained. But then more I thought about it, and the more we talked about it at our last foundation meeting, why not? If we're gonna go with one studio, let's do audio and video. What are the possibilities? With an audio, not only do you have the kids able to record, you could do kids reading books, you know, so they have the audio books for students that don't read well. What about the video recording? The kids can do the morning reports, the weather. Broadcast journalism, all you gotta do is turn the TV on and every place has a podcast or a, show of some sort that they can do. I even thought, what a neat way to present some of the current events that occurred in 1860. Let them put on a little thing about signing the Emancipation Proclamation. Whatever you want to choose to do with it. It can be very creative experience, plus it's going to stimulate the kids to thinking about what's actually happening. How am I going to write about that? How am I going to write an essay, and this would literally bring it to life, So I will write you a little thing of what we're thinking, but again, we need to explore.
Okay.
What's it gonna cost? Where can we thought about different places. I talked with Matt Hensler, as I said, about the software, and he suggested just using Adobe. We already have a license for Adobe, so we wouldn't have to pay anything extra, for that audio recording software. But he also, in his classroom, on that one side is huge, and I'm not sure that I would have to find out what it's all used for. Maybe we can put a cubby in there with a green screen or something. I don't know.
So you're asking for us to okay you to go ahead and research?
Yeah, all I'm
Okay.
asking for is just, may I explore it? Because, and I will look for additional grants. I will write a possibility for an EITC funded program with that, but that takes time. And I know I'm retired, but I still have a lot of things to do. So, I'm not gonna waste my time if that's a no-go, if you know what I mean.
So with that perspective, I'm not sure that's an actual board vote at this time, or is it a conversation here tonight? Is there any hesitation on giving her the green light to explore grant opportunities?
Okay. Thank you. I do appreciate that. And I know the kids will love it. How are we supported? Various grants, business contributions, donations from individuals. We are a nonprofit. Everybody who works with the foundation is a volunteer. So the only expenses we incur are nominal. Things like insurance, getting our 501 done.
C3.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. As far as writing the reports for EITC, I do that. And it's interesting. But I will be happy to share whatever I have with you. If you would like, just shoot me an email. I have a school email like you folks do, L. Gaspery. And also thanking you for helping us to support our teachers and our faculty, within the district. So, contacts there. We have a foundation room at the high school. You can send anything up there. The secretaries are so good to us. Tech is good to us, I have to say. We do have a computer up there. Can't print yet, but that's okay. Okay? Anything else that you would like information from me? Well, thank you very much. I will leave you to your business and have a good evening.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
I'm going to call forward Mr. Jean and Mrs. Johnson, our elementary principals. And while they're coming to the podium, board members, you have at your seats 3 documents, one for each elementary school. If you'll recall, Mr. Enders gave you in your budget binders 2 weeks ago the budget, the draft budgets for both all three elementary schools from both principals. And then tonight, you got the budget binder inserts for the presentations that you're gonna get in 2 weeks. So you have 2 weeks to look at them. And what the principals and supervisors are gonna focus on as they go through their budgets is really just, what are the things that changed? So from one year to the next, especially for new members, you have the whole entire thing from start to finish, line by line, for 2 weeks. But when they present, they're gonna focus on what has changed from last year to this year, what have they adjusted, and that's what they're gonna focus on tonight. So take it away.
Good evening, board. I'm going to start kind of for all three buildings. We have very similar goals and similar changes. So our goals for the district and our elementary buildings have remained largely the same since last year. We are looking to use multiple measures of data to improve teaching, learning, and student achievement. We're also looking to continue to review current curriculum and identify needs, and we're also continuing to build a Bulldog Nation, which is, improving our school climate and culture. So as far as PD plans and initiatives, we're continuing to build upon our MTSS model. We are improving our school climate and culture, developing teacher collective efficacy, developing our instructional coaches, and extending writing training from 5th grade down through kindergarten, and continuing the implementation of new science standards. So the next slide shows the main changes to the elementary budgets this year. There was an increase in the art budget because they, as a department, have recommended the purchase of a new curriculum program. It's through the University of Art Education. It is an online suite that includes a lot of curricular activities and resources for the art teachers, and also provides professional development for them in the arts. Similarly to how we added music curricular materials in the past several years, this time it was art's turn, so they chose new curricular resources. Also, we added to our budgets computer information technology, or CIT, which is one of the special classes that our students in grades K through 5 attend. It was only offered to students in grades 2 through 5. We expanded that this year to K through 5. And our teacher, Mrs. Denise Rout, has asked for a small budget for incidental supplies in the classroom, like just general classroom supplies, and then some things to support some of the technology she uses, like she needed a tripod, she needed batteries for the microbits that you just heard Mrs. Gasparine talk about, so incidental things like that. So that's a new line item in our budget that has been added this year.
Good evening again. Call your attention to Avis. If you look at the math, that's the only true considerable increase in both buildings, Avis and Sal, because of, drawing the lines, the extra kids coming in to Sal and Avis, and then also the consumables. When obviously we went through everyday math to the rep and so forth, we did see a considerable increase in the consumables, okay? And that was that Avis. When you look at Sal, we also have a 5th grade additional class coming in for next year. So that building will be capacity-wise with 2/5, 4s, 3rds, and 2nds, all the way through like Avis is this year. So that's where you see the considerable increase in both buildings.
Those are the major changes. anyone have any questions or anything we can answer for you?
I have a question. Can you give me an example of a consumable? Like, is that a textbook or?
A consumable is kind of the opposite of a textbook. It's like a workbook.
Okay.
So it's something we purchase every year that's only used once.
Right.
Next question.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, go ahead.
The computer information technology, this isn't keyboard, is this using the computer to enhance education somehow, or?
It does include keyboarding because that's part of our standards. The kids do still spend time learning to type proficiently. But then there's also everything from coding to robotics to, they touch on a lot of beginning pieces of computer and technology. Like the microbits that Mrs. Gasparin showed, that's kind of a beginning coding tool that exposes the kids to a lot of aspects of technology.
If they do keyboarding and stuff, do they get into word processing at a later age, or?
Yes, yep, they use your basic programs like the intermediate kids will use like Word, they'll learn to make a PowerPoint presentation, so they do like basic skills like that as well.
This is K through 5.
Yes.
Good.
Okay. The extended writing training for 5th grade down, that would be?
Our 5th grade, a 5th grade across the district was part of a grant through Patton a couple years ago, and they got extensive writing training. And through that, we want to take what they learned and some of the resources that they had access to and extend that, starting with 4th grade and then 3rd, and just expand that throughout the elementary grades.
Is that like grammar and?
It does include grammar, but when we say writing, we mean like the writing process. We don't,
Right.
It does include like your handwriting and letter formation. It includes grammar, but it's the entire writing process.
Okay, and this will probably be a question that I think everybody wants to know because we're talking about writing. Does this include cursive?
Yes, there has been an emphasis that we learned through that grant recently in research on the importance of handwriting fluency. So in other words, you don't want your child's ability to form the letters to hold them back from being able to write fluently or get their ideas on paper. So they do recognize the importance of handwriting as far as enabling the writing process, like getting your ideas written on paper. So there is support for that, so that we do want to make sure that we're incorporating handwriting programs in our elementary schools. So we're looking, as we expand that throughout the grade levels, at how we want to best do that.
And that's 5th grade? Or is that all grades?
That's all grades.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Okay,
we
so
obviously start with just like in kindergarten, learning to form the basic letters,
Right.
and then go from there.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Okay,
Thank you both.
Thank you.
I am passing out 2 things to board members that are, one is informational, but I'll explain both. The blue packet, each of you needs a blue packet and a yellow paper. The blue packet is the IU general operating budget. It is informational at this point. You have it as of tonight. It will be on a future agenda for a vote, as we do every year. So make sure you take a blue packet to peruse. It'll be on a future agenda for approval. The yellow sheet is it would not, I don't want to say annual because it's every other year, IU board seat election ballot. Those are individual ballots, one per board member, and this is a little bit different than what it looked like before. Because of the way the school code is worded, you all have to vote individually and not as an entire group, because your votes have to be recorded individually. So you have those tonight. They are not something that gets voted on as a whole group. They have to be individual ballots. So those do need to be filled out and returned to either Mr. Enders or myself. I do have a I know, I saw you looking at one. I have a copy for you. Questions about the budget vote coming up in the future or the ballot?
On the ballot, how do you want us to vote? Are we putting a check mark? Are we putting an X? Are we writing yes? Are we writing no? I don't know. No,
You can write yes and no, because it
Okay.
just has a blank space.
Okay.
And also under my report is a draft of the proposed 24-25 calendar. Again, this is informational. It'll be on a future meeting agenda for approval. It looks very similar to the current year's calendar, with the exception of the Christmas holiday. Because of the way that falls, there's a really odd, if the holidays are in the middle of the week. So it looks a little different, and when we return from the Christmas vacation, other than what it looked like this year, only because it falls midweek, so pay attention to that. But we did move around a couple days to make that work and keep this calendar as close to this year as it could be. I will say that publicly, because I know this is in the news, we are not attempting to use hours versus days to meet our school code requirement for next year. So there are 180 days of school. I know that's going to be a question as we move through this process around the region, but we are using days, not hours. So there are 180 days of school on this calendar. Questions about that? If you have questions when you review it, please let me know. It'll be on a future agenda for a vote. Go ahead.
Have you explored or thought about, like, just looking at the calendar, every month there is a 4-day weekend. One is a day off, one is an Act 80 professional development day. Have you ever thought of moving some of those professional development days towards the end of the year, or putting them more into spring break times or something? Just curious if there has ever been, if the calendar has ever been looked at differently than what it is now.
And so I'll answer that in that I do have a committee that looks at that and looks through the calendar and makes recommendations. That includes, I'm trying to think, who's on my calendar committee? Oh, you are. That includes a board member, it includes staff, and we actually, that's one thing that we do regionally is the superintendents do talk about calendars. So to answer your PD question, sometimes it helps when we align PD days because people can do things together, which has happened. But also, we try to discuss and align because nobody wants to be the person that starts a week before everybody else. And nobody also wants to be the person that's in school on January 2nd when nobody else is, because we'll be that person. So we try, they do, I'm not saying no, but we can look at that in the future. Do you want us to look at it now, or you want us to think about it for future calendars?
Think about the future calendars. And just out of curiosity, I noticed, my mic's not on, even in like June, the last student day is the 3rd, graduation's not till the 7th. So could we not end school for the students the 22nd or whatever and have professional development days that week, or you know what I mean? There's like different options because there's such a gap there. I know the teachers are here finalizing grades, that sort of thing. If some of them could be professional development days. Just curious.
The only thing I will say to that is those days could not be Act 80 days, because the premise of Act 80 is that you're learning something that you're going to use to impact your student instruction. So I think it would be frowned upon if we had an Act 80 day at the end of the year after the kids left. That report might get flagged. But doesn't mean we couldn't do some, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Just a different look at it.
All right, I got it. Any other questions? Okay, that's my report.
Next, we're going to have courtesy of the floor. We have several people who have signed up to talk about what is on the agenda for this evening. The first person is Samantha Knepp. Can you please state your name and address, and you will have 3 minutes.
Samantha Knepp, Limestone.
Whenever you're ready.
Go ahead.
Yep.
I'm focusing on the wiggling thing. Hello, my name is Samantha Knepp. I'm currently a senior at Jersey Shore High School, but I also spend half my day at Keystone Central CTC as part of their health occupations CT program. 3 years ago, the board voted down the implementation of a health occupation CT. My parents, knowing that I was interested in the healthcare field, wanted to know about other options. They advocated for me to have the opportunity to attend a program outside this district. I missed out on a lot of things in high school because I chose to pursue this program. I'm not able to take many electives. I've had to take online courses to complete graduation requirements since I lose an hour every day to travel. I don't get a lunch period this semester and last year, second semester, at either school. I miss out on events and time with friends in pursuit of this chance. Since joining this program, I have obtained my CNA, Certified Nursing Assistant license, and have been accepted into the Patient Care Technician program at Central Mountain. I'm a state qualifier for Keystone Central CTC at Skills USA. I'm going to Hershey in April. I will leave high school with the opportunity to join the workforce immediately or advance my knowledge at the collegiate level while working in the healthcare field. The recent pandemic and increasingly aging population and advancements in medical treatments means that demand is high for qualified and trained healthcare professionals. There exists an opportunity for the Jersey Shore School District to meet those needs by implementing a health occupations CT program. As a student member of the advisory board, I would welcome the chance to help make this a successful program using the knowledge and connections I have made. I urge the board to make this decision based on the need for this program and its importance to future generations. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Heidi Frank. Could state your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes whenever you're ready.
My name is Heidi Frank. I reside at 117 Geronimo Trail, Lock Haven. So I'm the Director of Nursing at Lock Haven Rehabilitation Senior Living. Just want to address the humongous need that we have for entry-level positions for healthcare providers, whether it be care technicians, CNAs. Our facility is required to accept only certified nursing assistants. We do fund those students to participate in the 6-week class, to sit for the test, and the state of Pennsylvania has put in a mandate for a minimum staffing ratio. So what that means for our facility is we have to provide a minimum amount of certified nursing assistants per resident that we have. So our facility is currently a 146-bed facility, and we have to staff that building with a minimum of 12 CNAs on day shift, 12 on 3 to 11, and 8 on 11 to 7 shift. We frequently find ourselves fighting for staff from competitors in the area, whether it be Haven Place or local hospitals or agencies where people can go to travel. But what we do find is that we are outsourcing those resources to nursing assistants from Tennessee, Florida, Alabama, travelers, where they're coming to us at a higher cost. And there is not a healthcare facility within Lycoming County, Clinton County that does not need entry-level position staff members. I've found that the students that we've accepted from other schools that do have health occupation classes are leaps and bounds ahead of the folks who just come into us off the street with no experience with that. Mainly because you have to interact with somebody, you have to physically touch somebody, you have to know and have that comfort level to knock on a door and wake somebody up in the morning. And that's just a level of comfort that those students have been introduced to very earlier on in their education. So they come to us and they're ready to come out and hit patient care and be, you know, interactive, where those students are set up for success. Speaking to what the young lady had said, where she said, you know, she is ready to leave high school and she is eligible to, you know, go into the workforce and she has job offers. I think that if you would find that if your students were offered a health occupation pathway, that would be a success for them, and not even just that would be the end for them. We have a lot of students that go on to be LPNs, RNs. We have students in the PA program at Lock Haven University that come and work our Weekend Warrior program, where they just fill in for us a couple hours to make some supplemental income and even to get their hands on patients and get familiar with patient care. So I think that it would be a huge benefit for your school district to consider something like that. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next is Anne Marie Furman. Please state your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Anne Marie Furman, Watson Township. There's 3 things I want to hopefully talk to you about tonight. The first one is the under curriculum and instruction. So I was present last meeting when it was presented to the board. My first thing is I'm asking the board to remove all forms of social emotional learning from any type of learning criteria here in the district immediately. With social emotional learning comes the responsibility. What they try to do within that, right, is teach our kids what to think and not how to think. So that's not the job of the teachers. The teachers are to teach our kids the basics of education. We need to allow our teachers to teach and not to try to tell our kids, not to raise our kids. So, and looking at the PDE Act 13 scores that were presented, right, we need to do more teaching in our districts instead of indoctrinating our kids. So I ask that you address social emotional learning and get it out of our district immediately. The next thing that I have to cover is the classes. There are some implementations of classes. I'm big on the budget, right? I'm still trying to find out how we're going to fund the new teacher's contract that was just voted on, right? So there's 2 courses that want to be new to the district. Both are elective courses. The first one is the medieval history and the other one is the AP seminar. Both will cost the district $3,000 each for a total of $6,000, right? If we don't know how we're going to pay for the teacher's contract that we're in, I feel that it doesn't make sense to spend additional money on classes that will only benefit a few kids. And then the last thing that I have here is regarding the Jersey Shore Educational Foundation. I think it's a great committee and they do great things. However, going back to the question that was never answered at the last meeting with regards to that Ms. Stemler had posed, right? to the professionals. What facility in the district would the professionals recommend not to fund, do any more renovations to? Of course, that was not answered. So my suggestion would be that before we have the grants written or donations given by businesses to put any more money in Salzburg, how about we get the answer to what what facility within the district will we not fund before we waste money on a building that may not be worth putting anything into. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Good evening. Shelley Helm, Hyatt Township. I'd like to take a moment. Luann left. Stephanie left. And Heather Haight's not here. I just wanted to, give them a round of applause for the volunteerism, even though some of them do work in the district, but they do volunteer time outside of their paid job. And you as well. A lot of new faces. So, now I'm going to read from a pre-scripted thing that I already wrote. I never do that. I go around John Brown's barn and usually get to where I'm going, but I have 3 minutes. So I have 3 minutes and want to cover 2 important points without going off track or being shot off due to time restrictions. As a former board president, when this first was brought forward, of course, it was implemented by a superintendent, but I never used it. I always found the benefit to me as being the board president. I didn't have to read as many emails and handle that in a timely fashion. Anyways, after all, you are elected to your positions by the electorate, your region, and of people of your region, and not everyone can attend board meetings to express their satisfaction or opposition to the job you are doing. Tonight's agenda covers, of course, the budget and the curriculum course offerings and additions. What I'd like the 9 of you to do is to hear what I'm saying and not react negatively to my words. Unfortunately, sometimes the truth is harsh. I have become concerned with what either has been presented by our highly qualified educators or administrators at the past few board meetings. I'd like to remind you all of your duties since most of you are new. Your job is to make policies, keep them up to date, and do the hiring and firing of the employees of this district, not to insert yourself into the daily functions of our students' education. That's what our educators do. So first, my background is not only science education, but curriculum. A lot hasn't really changed in the past 30 plus years, except for the implementation of the high stakes testing. With that said, I want to compliment our new CT administrator and his forward thinking for the students of our district. He is not only a scholar in his field, just by listening to him, you know that, but a professional and courteous. Are you here? Is that you? It's so nice to meet you. I was screaming at home, asked my husband, I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy's, we're very blessed to have him here. Hopefully you stay. When these individuals come to the board meetings, it's important. It's important because they're here to inform you of not only their professional opinions, which they have well researched, but they see the end goal. So this board would do a major disservice to our future workforce if the healthcare track is not voted in by a 9-member vote. The second subject is multifaceted, which involves the graduation requirements, funding, and solid foundation for the success of our students moving forward, especially in today's world. At the last meeting, our high school administrator, by no fault of his own, he's new, presented some information that was worrisome. At a previous meeting, a reading specialist at the elementary level divulged also some alarming information. Our district will surely be left back if our board members are either not listening or remain apathetic to what is presented to them. One, our students are deficient in math, reading, and only really the entry-level college educators would know of their writing skill proficiency. With
Mrs.
that
Holm.
said, I do believe passing the students along 2 grade levels over the pandemic was an error in judgment. However, hold on.
I know, your 3 minutes are up. You need to wrap it up, please.
Well, you can either have it here, you can have it in the newspaper, and I'll send it to you, but you won't answer.
Okay, well,
So,
you can take your
however,
seat now, please. Your
here
time
we
is
are.
up.
Okay, so I'm going to finish this.
No, you're going to take your seat,
I will finish this
please.
with my 3 minutes. At the
Your
courtesy
3
of the
minutes is
board.
already up. Please take your seat. You
Did
can
you
address
hear
the
what
board
I
at the
said?
end.
I will finish at courtesy of the floor, the second one. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, moving on to personnel. Items to approve. Letters A through L. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
I'll second.
Are there any questions or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say aye. Motion passes. Under curriculum and instruction, we are going to table letter A. Under letter B, numbers 9, 10, and 11, we are going to remove and asking for a presentation at the next board meeting, February 26th, from Mr. Bittner. Thank you. What we are going to do is I'm going to ask Mr. Enders to go ahead and roll call each one individually, starting with number 1. Oh, and I do need a motion. I apologize.
Motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Are there any questions or concerns?
I have one. There's a lot of new courses there, 8 of them. I guess my only concern is, I know we're not taking on any new staff. Cost is gonna be minimal. But is that telling me that the teachers do not have a full load? Are they gonna be dropping some courses that they're teaching to take on these new courses? How's that gonna work? I mean, are we gonna overload the staff? Or what? How are we gonna incorporate all these courses into their teaching schedule now?
So I would say they're gonna, if these are approved, they will be a part of the course selection sheets. And then we will build the schedule based on student requests. So if one of these
Build
is
the teacher
offered,
schedule.
correct. One of these is offered because there's enough interest, and there's not enough interest in something already on the books, that's what will be scheduled versus something that's already
So
there.
they're still gonna have their 7 or 8 classes, teaching
Correct.
classes like that, but you're gonna, if enough sign up for one of these new courses, it's gonna knock out possibly another course that they've been teaching
Correct.
for X years, whatever the case would be. Okay, kind of what I thought was gonna happen with it.
Any other questions?
So with the new courses, that would be textbook and program costs? Or
The
would be
costs that were
addition?
provided, any of the ones that had costs, that was anything we would need to offer that course. Some of them do not have costs, because if you recall Mr. Armbruster saying, some of these are going to use existing materials within the department to
Right.
offer that course.
Right. Do we buy those, so this would be my question, I guess. Do we buy those textbooks after we have,
We would have to wait until the budget was approved with this money in it, and then we would have to come back with a textbook that you would then approve.
okay,
So right now, that is the estimated cost for books we've looked at.
Right.
But you would still, as a board, have to approve which book we would purchase.
okay.
Another question. I just, again, my iPad's been down, so I haven't had a chance to look at these and see what the reasoning behind them was, but if I'm looking at high school nutrition, strength and conditioning, keyboarding too, are these overlapping programs or already offered? I would think that nutrition is taught by the health department maybe already. The fitness center, so I see a lot of kids using that. I mean, these
So
overlap or just a continuation?
In the presentation, we said these are units inside phys ed and health classes now
Right.
that we're expanding into courses. So it's in addition to what we're already doing,
Is being taught by the phys ed department?
phys ed and health.
So they're gonna drop something also? It's gonna become a class?
No, the kids would choose this as part of their phys ed requirement rather than phys ed class.
Rather than actual physical activity?
You take strength and
Somewhat.
conditioning, that's a physical activity, Harry.
Well, someone would be, well, the fitness center might be, but keyboarding is not. and I assume
Keyboard-
nutrition-
No, keyboarding is not the phys
no,
ed
and
department,
there's-
that's the
No,
music
but I mean,
department.
that's not, that doesn't overlap, keyboarding one,
They already have
keyboarding two?
keyboarding one, they're saying they would like another course that would be a continuation for, the kids would come back for a second semester.
Be interested to see what they would be doing second time around. All right.
Other questions?
I have a question. The introduction to environmental science specifically, in a couple different places where it was explained, believe I got an email on it, and then there was something in another place. In one place it had the word in the description, and one place it did not. But I wondered if someone could tell me in what context is sustainability in environmental science? This is what it says. Well, I won't read the whole thing, but it says environmental systems and resources, environmental literacy skills, and sustainability and stewardship outlined in the et cetera. So in what context is sustainability in this course?
It
Can
would
someone
be,
tell me
I would
what it is?
have to give you the standards in the new science standards to answer that question.
And that was my next question, because Mrs. Johnston mentioned something about the science
Science
standards
standards.
changing. So I just wondered what was changing.
So there's a whole new set of science standards that are gonna be assessed, I think it's 2025, that were already Board of not Board of Governors, the state school board approved. So we are required to implement those science standards by 2025. And that's what the request is for this course, is covering those standards that are new.
Do you know specifically what they are? Like, is
I
it
can
green?
s-
Is it green energy? Is this what comes down from the World Economic Forum?
I have no idea.
Okay,
I'm
that's
not a
where I'm
science
going,
teacher.
is that sustainability is
I can
a
send you the
common term.
standards document.
Okay.
Would that help?
Yeah.
Just another question, are these, some of these 9-week courses or semester courses? Can you pick them out?
I'd have to look at I'd have to look at the agenda attachment, but I don't think any of them were 9-week. I think some of them were semester. He's saying no. Semester?
The only one that's not a semester, I think, is your AP seminar. The rest are all semester classes by the looks of them.
I believe intro to environmental is
Intro to environmental? You identified it as a half, but maybe you have both.
I think it's half.
I'll double check.
It says half, and I think it's opposite intro to bio.
So they're all semester courses,
Except number 3.
AP.
Yeah, and number 8 is an hourly thing.
I abstain. Go ahead.
I have a question. So a couple of these courses have a cost, textbooks, $3,000. So is that money already budgeted, or where does that money come from?
It is in the draft of the high school budget, which Mr. Armbruster will present if they're approved, will delete if not approved. Because he will present, I think it's in March, right?
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So if these are approved, you don't get enough enrollment, they're still gonna be dropped, go back to whatever the enrollment is per course. Okay.
Are there any other questions? Absolutely.
It is a half credit. The other half credit comes from Earth and Space Science for the freshman. The bio is the 10th grade.
I have one more question. So if these do go through, these new courses, does the actual curriculum come back around to be approved? I mean, I assume that since they're brand new, there's actually no curriculum actually written for them at this time?
There is not at this time until they're approved. What would come back to the board is if a textbook was purchased.
All right, I just mean like the curriculum itself, does that?
If they're using existing materials inside what they already have, they're gonna write the scope and sequence internally. What would come to you is the purchase of materials, and if, in those places where there's there's budget money for materials, you would have to approve those materials if we went out to purchase something.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Hearing none, Mr. Enders.
We're voting on each one individually.
Correct.
Roll call vote. You are right now voting on B1, Intro to Environmental Sciences. Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Burgard?
Yes.
Ms. Calhoun?
Yes.
Ms. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Peters?
Yes.
Mr. Furman?
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas?
Yes.
Mrs. Stemler?
Yes.
Motion passes for B1. You are voting on B2, Ancient Medieval History. Mr. Allen?
No.
Mr. Brungard?
No.
Mrs. Calhoun?
No.
Ms. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
No.
Mrs. Peters?
No.
Mr. Furman?
No.
Mrs. Thomas?
Yes.
Mrs. Stemler?
No.
Motion fails 2-7. You are voting on B3 AP seminar. Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Brungard?
Yes.
Calhoun?
Yes.
Ms. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
No.
Mr. Peters?
Mrs. Peters.
Oh, sorry, Mrs. Peters.
No. No.
Mr. Furman?
No.
Mrs. Thomas?
Yes.
Mrs. Stemler?
No.
Motion passes 5-4. You're voting on B4, high school nutrition. Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Brungard?
No.
Mrs. Calhoun?
Yes.
Ms. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Peters?
Yes.
Mr. Furman?
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas?
Yes.
Mrs. Stemler?
Yes.
Motion passes 8-1. Voting on B5, strength and conditioning and lifelong fitness. Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Brungard?
Yes.
Mrs. Calhoun?
Yes.
Ms. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Peters?
Yes.
Mr. Furman?
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas?
Yes.
Mrs. Stemler?
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0. Voting on B6, keyboarding 2. Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Brungard?
No.
Mrs. Calhoun?
Yes.
Ms. Edwards?
Yes.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Peters?
Yes.
Mr. Furman?
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas?
Yes.
Mrs. Stemler?
Yes.
Motion passes 8-1. You're voting on B7, introduction to computer systems and networking. Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Brungard?
Yes.
Mrs. Calhoun?
Yes.
Ms. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Peters?
Yes.
Mr. Furman?
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas?
Yes.
Mrs. Stemler?
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0. Voting on B8, diversified occupations.
Ben, can we hold, Michelle, can we hold up a minute and have Mr. Bittner just give us a short explanation of what this is? Because this is not actually something that 100 kids or something like that are gonna be taking.
Yeah, I sure can. So diversified occupations allows us to give credit to the seniors who go out on capstone internships that are not currently in one of our CPE programs. We have to have it listed in our course catalog in order to be able to give them academic credit for the time that they're out working and getting paid. So that's the purpose of the capacity we're estimating right now is about 6 students per year.
Thank you. Are you satisfied with that explanation?
Yeah, I just wanted everybody to
Okay.
hear what
I just want
that-
to make sure you don't need anything else. Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Enders, please.
Mr. Allen?
No.
Mr. Gringard?
I have a question, may I have a question again? You're taking these 6 students out of the classroom to go out in construction somewhere, plumbing or the health field, or to work out of a classroom setting, basically, they're ready for that through your construction programs or whatever, you're right?
No? This is only for students who are not currently in one of our CTE programs, so we would not be able to send a student out in construction, because we have that CTE program.
They're already doing that.
They have a co-op
Within
program.
CTE, they're already doing that as a co-op student.
So these are students that are not in the CTE program, one of those programs that are going out for, they may get a job where at?
Best example I could think is criminal justice, general education, agriculture, natural resources, CTE programs that we don't currently have. The students can have a CTE experience their senior year only.
So these students more or less would have to, I'm gonna say, have an in out there somewhere to get into one of these positions and have a job like that. No,
Yes.
they just can't walk into somewhere, they're gonna have somebody pulling for them or somebody, I know this is, you can get in here, I can get you some work here or whatever, basically?
Yeah, the students come to us with a job placement. It's not a job search service. They already have an in, they already have a contact, and then they come to us to set up that internship. And we already have a work-based learning coordinator. This is just an extension of the current work-based learning programs.
And who approves the work?
So,
You?
so it's, first of all, it's approved by me, the CTE director. We take instructor recommendations, school counselor recommendations. It has to be approved by the parent and guardian, as well as if they're under 18 years old, they have to have a work permit.
Okay, thank you. Yes. I didn't know what it was.
Well, that's why I asked the question.
Mr. Enders.
I have it registered.
You got it all written down, didn't you?
Thank you. Before we move forward, are there any other questions for Mr. Bittner?
Questions and answers, if that changed his opinion at all. It did not change my opinion at this time.
Didn't want to put you on the spot.
That's all right.
No other questions? Okay. Just want to make
Mrs.
sure.
Calhoun,
Yes.
Ms. Edwards,
Yes.
Mr. McDonald,
Yes.
Mrs. Peters,
Yes.
Mr. Furman,
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas,
Yes.
Mrs. Stemler.
Yes.
Motion passes 8-1.
Okay, moving on to building and grounds. Recommended action to approve items A and B. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Go ahead, take Kayla.
Kayla. Thank you. Are there any questions or concerns on A or B?
How soon will the repair to the middle school refrigerator?
You know, I didn't ask Mr. Wall that question, but he's worked with 3 different companies to get this boat. I think they're ready once it's approved. I do know it's already been torn out, like what isn't working has already been removed, so that step is over. It's a matter of getting the stuff here and installing it.
I have a question. Sorry. Is there I don't know if this is something that we discuss or if this would be a part of this vote. Is there a preliminary, say that a boiler stopped? Is there a preliminary plan? I know Williamsport has preliminary plans for stuff like that. Do you know what I'm saying? Or do I need to explain better?
So we have had, for example, I think a year ago, a boiler went down at JSASD. That is the purpose of putting the redundancy system in, so that we can't not operate because there isn't heat in the building.
Right.
So most of what Mr. Wall and I have done is have a redundant system, and I appreciate Mr. McDonald asked me this question, so I'll answer it so that it makes sense. We're not buying 2 boilers that can heat the entire building on the coldest day of the year. We're buying 2 boilers that work together and heat the building. So if it's not the coldest day of the year and one goes down, we can still function, we can still maintain temperature in the building. So to answer your question, we're doing that on purpose so that we don't get in the situation where a boiler goes out and we can't have school.
What happened with 2 years ago when I asked Mr. Wall if there was any problems with the boilers, and he said they're fixable during a meeting? Just asking. I know.
Well, I would say because your construction management and engineer are saying they're at you're past your useful life. Doesn't mean they're not fixable, but you're past your useful life.
Okay.
Site logic says it would be a matter of a day or 2 to get the replacement in there also.
Temporary.
Yes.
They did talk about at the Buildings and Grounds Committee that there are potentials for temporary if something goes down.
Right.
Any other questions or concerns? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say aye. Motion passes. Moving on to finance. May I have a motion to amend letter A from the amount of $219,951 to $335,000 to capital reserve from the unassigned fund balance?
A motion.
Second.
Whoever.
You pick.
Mayor.
Mary can have it, doesn't matter.
Very selective.
Oh.
Yes.
We're just voting on this amendment.
Okay.
Right.
Are there any questions or concerns to the amendment? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say aye. Okay, motion passes. Going to approve now items A through E. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Are there any questions or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
I just want to
Yep.
give the board, regarding items D and E, especially the new board members that have never gone through this. This is the annual process that essentially closes out real estate tax collections for the 23-24 school year. You'll see in documents, you actually see in the settlement, it says the tax settlement for year 2023. So that's because we collect taxes essentially from July 1st till December 31st. At this point in time, they get turned over, anybody that's delinquent gets turned over to the county, the 2 counties, and they have a delinquent real estate tax collection process, and they proceed to collect the taxes for us at that point in time. So the new board members, I just want to explain what you guys are systematically doing and what the process is with real estate taxes.
Thank you. Any questions with what Mr. Enders explained? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say aye. Motion passes. Moving on to miscellaneous. Items to approve, A through H. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Are there any questions or concerns? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say aye. Motion passes. Is there anything under old business that anybody would like to discuss?
I have a question. This goes over what we just voted on under curriculum and instruction. I thought are we gonna wait till after something is presented for 9, 10, and 11 to ask questions, or we're gonna ask questions now?
If you have questions, what I'd like you to do is send them to Mrs. Stemler and I, so that I can collate them and give them to Mr. Bittner to make a part of his presentation, rather than everybody trying to bring them right now. Send them to me and copy Mrs. Stemler, and we'll make sure that when he presents in February, all of your questions are answered.
Excellent. Thank you.
And I'll follow up. Mr. Wall was not able to attend tonight because he has his obligation, but he said lead time is 4 days. So as soon as he can place the order tomorrow, we should be in this 4 days plus installation. So I don't know how many days that is.
4 additional days?
I have a comment on old business. Oh, lost it. Like I said, my iPad was down for a little bit, and it's still down tonight again. I don't know what's going on with me over in the valley, but I went back to the library for the update 2 weeks ago, and I found the Jersey Shore area contract total cost, final contract, it said. So I assume that all the healthcare costs and everything have been set, Mr. Enders? No, I didn't think they were till later on. Okay. But just a couple of things. I'm confused or need clarity on it, but I'm looking at the salaries and then the net benefits. The salary total over 5 years is roughly 5.7, 5.8 maybe, $5.8 million. If I take that and divide by 172 employees, I think, in the school district, that averages out to $33,306 over the 5-year period. Am I right in that? That doesn't seem possible. In other words, I know it's an average number, so I know people are on different steps. They have different degrees. So if you take an average of $33,000 over 5 years, that's $5,000–6,000 a year. I mean, somebody might be making 2, somebody's going to be making it. Where's the differential there? And before you answer that, let me go. If I go down to the total salaries and net benefits, that's $8.4 million that you have there. Again, if I divide that by 172 employees, that's $49,000 per employee. It doesn't make sense. I'm got to be doing something wrong. If I divide that by 5 years of the contract, that's $9,800 per year per employee, salaries and benefit. And again, somebody has to be making less than that. Somebody has to be making more than that in order for that to be an average. Did somebody get one heck of a bump in there somewhere? Can't you? I said, can you explain that? I'm kind of dumbfied about it a little bit. I can't clarify it somehow.
Well, here,
Is that just the numbers?
That's a simplistic way of calculating it. I'm not going to just do your calculation. Put the nail on the head. On an average basis, you divide it by 172 employees.
That's what I thought.
And divide it by 5. And that's a per year, per person average.
Wow.
On the calculations of the contract, it's a simplistic calculation of it. And you're not wrong with your explanation. Nail on the head. There's Some people are getting more and some people are getting less. So there's step movement in there and people run the scale in different spots.
Did somebody,
I don't disagree with your analysis one bit.
did somebody on a certain steps get one heck of a bump somehow, or to?
Well, there's 1 year, there's two steps given in 1 year. As far as, the only thing I can tell you is in healthcare, I believe there's an assumption of a 5% increase year over year. Then the only other piece of that pie that was the large piece of that pie that was, I won't say hypothetical, but was Caesar's future rates that they provided us a year ago, in those assumptions going forward. So what happens is every year we get our certified Caesar's rate. And when we get that document, you all will see them.
Right.
We get that document, they project out what the rates will be for the next 5 years. So those are all provided by Caesar. I'm not sitting there saying, I pick them off an apple tree, or Dr. Holland hands them to me or something like that. We use Caesar to provide rates. Now, what I say about that is, this will be, I believe, the second year in a row. Now, it's not a large decrease, but it's a decrease. The Caesar's rates went down, I believe, 0.1%. So I only say that, and those are where the assumptions built behind that calculation.
Okay, simple mathematics, I thought so, but again, I just think it's absurd, but I know this board, all 9 members, somehow, this contract is set for 5 years. Somehow we have to work together and, work as a group of 9 people and try and make some cuts somewhere. I know we're gonna have a deficit and somehow balance this budget when it comes up here, because we're kind of stuck with this and just have to work together to kind of, cut the deficit somehow. Come up with I urge you to come up with some ideas of cost-cutting efforts that we can make somewhere in the near future here, once we see the budget that we're gonna be looking at, to cut this deficit down somehow. We gotta live with this contract. Somehow we have to cut it. Okay? Thank you.
Mr. Brungard, some information for you on what you're asking for is very simplistic of explaining it in an email that was sent out to the board in times past before you were on the board, before you were elected. So it gives you the matrix. It's very easy to see. That's what he has. So.
Sorry, I didn't.
That's what he's looking
Is that what you have up there?
No, he has the total cost. She's talking
I had
about
the
what's
matrix.
happening
Okay, so he
with
has
this.
total cost, because I was going to say.
I also have the matrix of the step
Yes.
by step also.
Yes. Okay. So when you bring that matrix up, the step by step, you'll be able to see the increase very easily going down the matrix from year to year. And that would give you, I mean, obviously Mr. Enders says he's not disputing it, but you'll get to see the actual amounts of where people are. If somebody's on step 5, somebody's on step 9, you'll get to see what they're making 5 years down the road each year. And that will give you the exact number you're looking for when you say, are there people getting specific, huge bumps according to this matrix? Depending what you think is huge, yes. And that information is there for you.
Yeah, that's the reason I brought that up about the bumps and stuff, because I'm looking at that matrix you're talking about, the step movement and stuff. I'm looking at maybe 3,000, and again, I don't know, I don't have it in front of me, $4,000 raise per year. But then here I'm looking at an average of $9,800 per year, salaries and benefits. And that's what makes me think that somebody got one heck of a big bump somewhere in a couple of those steps. And that's what I was, I mean, to clarify that, somebody had to get some bumps in there. Some raises in somewhere in a couple of those steps. So I understand. I just know if the numbers are right or not.
The numbers are accurate, and if my memory serves me well, some some, depending what employees are on each step, some were receiving between an 8 and a 9% increase each year in pay on some of the steps. Not all of them. They were all different. So yes, that's a significant increase.
Because of the step and the double step movement.
Correct.
All right.
Anything else under old business? Okay, we will move on to courtesy of the floor. Could you please state your name and address, and you will have 3
Helm, Pine
minutes.
Township. Thanks, Harry. I sent you that information. I got that information from Ben a while ago.
You send me the step
I
movement.
sent
and
it to you
got-
in a text. Yep, it's all there. So I'm going to continue on, and I will send you all of this. So our students are deficient in math, reading, and only the entry-level college educators would know of their writing skill proficiencies. With that said, I do believe that passing the students along 2 grade levels over the pandemic was an error in judgment. However, we are now here and we have to deal with the ramifications. My suggestion is to tighten up our smorgasbord of course offerings at the high school level, concentrate on the 3 R's at the elementary level, and go back to the basics. If we do this, the students will be able to do anything at the secondary and post-secondary level well. Leaving some items from your course offerings will not mean that these students will not have access to it. We are lucky to be teamed up with local colleges and universities for this part, and that is also forward thinking. This leads me to discuss the spectrum of learners in the educational system. For those of us who have been called to be educators, we learn the basic 3 learning groups, and we're not talking about the ones that Luann talked about, the tactile, the visual, and the audio learners. We're talking about the high and low level, and then the medium. Low are well covered by IEPs, which are attached to federal and state funding, so they should be receiving the services we are getting money for. A seminar course was brought up at the last meeting. How wonderful, I thought. Whether most understand this or not, the accelerated high-functioning learner is often excluded, left behind, so to speak. So some might not understand what a seminar course entails. It's for the high-spectrum student. These classes are for students who have excelled in a particular field of study. In college, these are usually master-level courses. We would not be doing our due diligence if those who are not educators are questioning what the curriculum for a seminar course is, since they don't even understand what it is to begin with. This is why our board members need to review their role in the educational hierarchy here. Like I've stated, our educators and administrators are highly qualified, meaning educated. If they are, we do have a few here that are educated, I see 2. So, in the educational field, if they are presenting information to you, the board, it is because they deem it important. After all, the contractual educators, Act 93 administrators, and contract-based and top-funded administrators of the district are paid to offer a service to the district, not the elected political policy makers that make up some of this board. In conclusion, you might want to think about tightening up the requirements for graduation. Our experienced educators and administrators have brought you enough adequate information that clearly presents a justification for it, especially in math and reading. We would be doing a disservice to our students, our future workforce, by not putting a strong emphasis on investing in learning basics well. One thing the pandemic has taught most of us, especially the parents, is that iPads can't replace the educator, nor can school boards. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Holm.
Good evening, Board. Madam President, could I address the superintendent with a question?
First, state your name and address.
Bob Pryor, Mifflin, you should all know me by now. Bob Pryor, Mifflin Township.
Go right ahead. Yes,
My
go
3
right ahead.
minutes run out. Dr. Elmer, good to see you tonight. Could you give a definition of economically challenged?
Economically disadvantaged, that's
Right.
actually I would say there is a metric that the state uses, and that is designated based on the family income. And it is determined by the number of people in the household and the total income of the household. So it is a state formula that we have to go by. So the students that are designated as economically disadvantaged is based on their family income.
Okay. In your opinion, do you think family that makes $32,000 a year would be challenged? Their students, their children would be challenged?
I would have to pull up the rate, but it is based on not just the amount of money, also the number of people in the household.
Right. Okay, well, a couple meetings ago, there was something mentioned by our past president of the board, and that is, and I quote, "I couldn't live on $32,000 a year," unquote. Why wasn't that considered, I wonder, when that contract was shoved down our throats? Because there are people in this district living on $32,000 a year and less. And they have to pay property taxes, many of them. And I just want to bring that to light, because I think she forgot who she represented. I think she thought she was president of the teachers union at that time. Thank you.
Michelle.
Thank you, Mr. Pryor.
Hello, I am Samuel Hum from Piatt Township. And I'd just like to say that thank you all for being here tonight, showing us what our schools are teaching and doing. And thank you all for helping me with my speech. And this will be a good learning process for me. All have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Steve Helm, Piatt Township. First of all, thank you all for your volunteerism and working here on the board. You guys really make a lot of tough decisions. But all of the decisions, or many of the decisions you make, really impact every one of us. And, quite honestly, when you hear board members asking questions about a contract that they're going to have to live with, it's not just them that have to live with it. We have to live with it. We have to live with the impact of it each and every year. And quite frankly, I'm not sure how, over the next 5 years, we're $8.4 million increase from where we're at. You hear board members talking about finding ways to cut costs. Well, you're darn right. You better find some ways. Because the alternative is only increasing taxes. I think that, quite frankly, it's really hard to accept an 8 or 9% increase for some employees when constituents and members of the public and private sector and so on are not those type of increases. And I mean, that's what this board approved. And really, I mean, there's going to have to be some belt tightening. I don't know how you pass each and every year's budget, coming up with over $1 million each and every year. So, God bless you. Good luck. But we're watching, and we are the ones who are impacted. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Helm. All right, that concludes the meeting. It's adjourned.